I now give the floor to Dr. Gregory Koblentz. The floor is yours.
His Excellency, Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, Deputy Prime Minister of Malaysia and President of the Security Council, His Excellency Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for providing me this opportunity to provide a briefing on how advances in science, technology, and international commerce are increasing the risk posed by the proliferation of chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons to non-state actors. Since Resolution 1540 was approved in 2004, it has emerged as one of the most important tools the international community has to prevent the proliferation of CBRN weapons to non-state actors. Since 2004, however, there have been amazing advances in science and technology, including technological breakthroughs in artificial intelligence, robotics, 3D printing, autonomous vehicles, nanotechnology, gene editing, and synthetic biology. These advances have created unparalleled opportunities and capabilities to manipulate objects in the physical world, in cyberspace, and even our DNA. The combination of these emerging technologies led the World Economic Forum last year to declare that we're at the beginning of a fourth industrial revolution. This new industrial revolution is characterized by its global scope, an exponential rate of innovation, and the convergence of the chemical, biological, physical, and digital worlds. This new industrial revolution has the potential to create huge benefits for productivity, prosperity, and transform our systems of economics and governance. But the fourth industrial revolution has a dark side. The same scientific discoveries and technologies fueling this new industrial revolution have the potential to be misused by non-state actors to cause harm. Klaus Schwab, chairman of the World Economic Forum, warned, quote, "As this process takes place and new technologies such as autonomous or biological weapons become easier to use, individuals and small groups will increasingly join states in being capable of causing mass harm. This new vulnerability will create new fears," unquote. It would be far preferable to predict how these emerging technologies could be misused and take steps ahead of time to mitigate these risks instead of waiting to respond after these new technologies are used to cause harm on a large scale. I submitted a paper that describes 5 advances in science and technology that increase the risk of CBRN material and weapons proliferating to non-state actors. I have time to only discuss these developments briefly this morning, so I refer you to the full paper for more details. The first area of concern are unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs. UAVs are no longer so expensive or sophisticated that they are restricted to a handful of states. Indeed, several terrorist groups, such as Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Islamic State, already fly their own UAVs. The ability of UAVs to collect intelligence over highly secure facilities has proliferation risks. For example, in 2014, unidentified UAVs flew over reactors in France and Belgium for unknown purposes. Earlier this year, an unidentified UAV was seen flying over a U.S. Navy base that hosts several strategic missile submarines. Future versions of UAVs could be turned into flying IEDs. These drone bombs could fly over ground-based defenses and precisely target critical areas of nuclear facilities or sites that store toxic industrial chemicals. Finally, UAVs could one day be used to deliver weapons of mass destruction directly. While these commercially available UAVs are unlikely to be capable enough to carry nuclear weapons, the low speed, low altitude, low payload capacity of UAVs is well suited for delivering chemical and biological agents against civilian targets. Another emerging technology of concern is 3D printing. Because 3D printing are machines that print physical objects layer by layer using special inks made out of plastic or metal. Because 3D printing is highly automated, it takes much of the skill out of fabrication. The versatility of 3D printing has led to predictions that the market for this technology will reach $30 billion by 2022. As this technology advances, more capable machines are becoming more widely available to more people. Already, amateurs have used 3D printers to create plastic handguns that can be smuggled through X-ray detectors and into buildings and secure facilities. Scientists have also used 3D printers to print microreactors that can synthesize chemicals on a small scale. 3D printers create new opportunities for non-state actors to engage in do-it-yourself proliferation. If they're unable to buy controlled items on their own, they may be able to print them themselves one day. For non-state actors such as terrorists or criminals interested in acquiring CBRN materials, they are increasingly turning to a special part of the internet called the dark web. The dark web can only be accessed using special encryption software that hides the location identity of its user. The dark web hosts numerous markets that offer a range of illegal goods for sale, such as guns, drugs, and even chemical and biological weapons. In 2014, the United States arrested 2 individuals who sold the toxins ricin and aberin to customers in North America, Europe, and Asia. Ricin is a Schedule I chemical weapon under the Chemical Weapons Convention. The global reach and anonymity that the dark web provides non-state actors with new means of doing business to acquire dual-use equipment and materials. Most of these markets avoid traditional financial systems and instead rely on digital currencies like Bitcoin to conduct transactions. These transactions are encrypted, which provides anonymity to both the buyer and seller. This poses special challenges to anti-money laundering and counterterrorism financing regulations. There's also a growing risk that non-state actors could use malicious software or malware to conduct cyber attacks on facilities that produce or store nuclear, biological, or chemical materials. These non-state actors could be disgruntled insiders, hacktivists, criminals, or terrorists. The widespread use of digital and automated industrial control systems in these facilities and their connection to the internet creates special and growing vulnerabilities. This year, the non-governmental organization, the Nuclear Threat Initiative, started including cybersecurity as one of the measures in their Nuclear Security Index, and the results were sobering. They found that 20 countries that possess weapons-usable nuclear material or have nuclear power plants did not meet even the most basic requirements of cybersecurity. We should not just be one mouse click away from a cyber Chernobyl. Finally, the last area of science technology I want to discuss is that of gene editing, a relatively new development in the field of the life sciences. In 2013, scientists created a powerful new tool for genetic engineering called CRISPR. CRISPR allows scientists to modify the genome of practically any organism more precisely, more cheaply, and more reliably than ever before. The versatility and ease of use of this tool has given rise to the term gene editing. Gene editing is poised to make great contributions to human health, but at the same time, the U.S. Director of National Intelligence has warned that the deliberate or unintentional misuse of this technology could have grave economic or national security implications. Although these technologies differ greatly in many respects, they share 7 key characteristics that pose a special challenge to the implementation of the objectives of Resolution 1540. First, these technologies are dual use. They can be used either for peaceful or for harmful purposes. Second, these technologies are disruptive. They are powerful enough to be able to transform entire industries and economies and fields of science. Due to these 2 characteristics, these technologies are highly sought after by NGOs, corporations, and governments for their scientific, commercial, and humanitarian applications. The third feature of these technologies is that of diffusion. Thanks to advances in international commerce, new technologies can now diffuse faster and farther than ever before. The fourth feature is that all these technologies rely to some degree on a digital component that makes controlling them even more difficult. For example, the 3D printers use a digital blueprint called a build file to program the machine on what to produce. These build files take up less space on your computer than a typical TV episode. So they're easily transferable via internet, the email, or other means of communication. The fifth feature is that of decentralization. Decentralization means there's been a shift in the global distribution of scientific innovation and industrial capacity. No longer is that concentrated in the West, but is now more widely distributed to a more diverse group of nations around the world. Sixth is de-skilling. The level of expertise needed to utilize these technologies has been reduced, making these new technologies more widely available and more accessible to a larger group than ever before. Seventh characteristic is the rise of the do-it-yourself or DIY movement. These are amateur innovators who use open source platforms to build virtual communities dedicated to creative application of these new technologies. There are vibrant transnational DIY movements devoted to UAVs, 3D printing, and synthetic biology. The combination of these 7 characteristics is what makes it such a challenge to prevent these emerging technologies from being misused by non-state actors. Despite the potential for these advances in science technology to increase the risks of proliferation of non-state actors, we should also keep in mind that these advances also provide opportunities to mitigating these risks and preventing them from occurring. Unmanned and aerial and ground vehicles can be used to detect seaborne weapons, for border security, and for bomb disposal. Biometrics and radio frequency ID chips can be used to improve physical security and inventory control. Big data can be harnessed to improve export controls. Improved sensors can detect the production, transportation, and use of CBRN weapons. The international community faces a continuing challenge of encouraging innovation and maximizing the benefits of these new technologies, while at the same time mitigating the risks that these pose to international security. I hope the Security Council will take advantage of the comprehensive review of Resolution 1540, of which this open debate is an important contribution to update the resolution to take into account the impact of scientific discoveries and technological breakthroughs on the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction to non-state actors. Thank you.
I thank Dr. Koblentz for his briefing.